Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 146. Hope you're all having an amazing weekend so far. It's been a very volatile week in these markets. I'm sure you're all aware and caught up, but we will be recapping everything that's gone down over the past week for this setup into the upcoming week ahead. We have a lot to get into today, so we're just going to get straight to it. Welcome to the Red Pill Podcast. If you are new here to our community and you have yet to get Discord access, just go ahead and send me a direct message on Patreon with your Discord username and the last four numbers after your username, and I will reply back to you in a Patreon message with your Discord server invite. And doing incredible with our voting system for the altcoins. Today we will be covering, of course, XRP and Ethereum, as well as the Graph, XDC Network, Harmony One, and Dogecoin. And by the way, we got a lot of votes for a coin called Stronghold, ticker SHX, but I cannot find a good chart on that coin. So if anyone would like to go ahead and send a comment in this Red Pill podcast with the best chart available, just a link to the chart, that'd be so great if you want me to cover Stronghold. I was not able to find anything here on TradingView, and everything that I did find was limited in data, and it was a little bit confusing to be able to do TA on, so feel free to send the best all-time chart available for Stronghold, and I will cover that next week because got about 10 votes, so you guys are interested in it. I did see a little bit of a run-up on this project over the past couple months, so I'm assuming that could be the reason why, but needless to say, just go ahead and send me the best chart available and we'll see what we could do next week. So we have a lot to get into today, as I just said, no time wasted. In the last Red Pill podcast, we covered all the years of Bitcoin trading at the beginning of a Gregorian year. That would be January 1st. And we identified that 8 out of 13 years of Bitcoin's trading history, Bitcoin topped out by January 8th with no new highs for several months to follow. And in many examples, we did not go higher until June or July of that year, from where Bitcoin initially topped out in early January. And so far for this cycle we're in now, we had Bitcoin close the highest daily close of January so far on January 8th. Perfectly aligning what we've seen basically Bitcoin do in a majority of these examples, making this potentially the 9th out of 14 iterations of this topping out in January before January 9th. Note we probably shouldn't count the years of 2010 and 2011 because there was just such limited chart history for Bitcoin at that time. It was trading at a fraction of a penny for almost the first year, so not really that helpful. But essentially, we have 9 years of Bitcoin topping out between January 6th through 8th, making that 75% of the time. And so far, this has been the case for 2024 as well. So it ended up being an incredible opportunity for me to de-risk. I got out at about 47K on the nose, and I've just been chilling since, and I've already revealed to everyone my buyback targets for what could be coming very soon as late February, and we'll be getting into that more today. But please make sure to be following along the updates that I send out in between these Red Pill podcasts. I know you guys really enjoy those, so I'm going to do my best to keep up with them. So in the last podcast, we also covered all the years that Bitcoin did not top out in between that January 6th through 8th timeframe. And it gave us a couple examples where Bitcoin either slowly traded up throughout January with very low volume, but stayed bullish nonetheless, which would not count as far as what we're seeing right now, because we effectively had this big spike up on January 11th, but we had tons of volume kick in, lots of volatility in the middle of this January timeframe. And now we're down about 14% from those highs. Also, this started after the first trading day for the newly approved and launched Bitcoin ETFs. So you know that this all counts. This is not just random, okay? we had this Bitcoin ETF priced in. That's very important to note that we saw this sell-off on the first day and moving into all the way on Friday's weekly close for the traditional markets. We also had everything else trading on Thursday and Friday. So that's what I'm saying. We know this counts. And we have all this volume that kicked in, but not nearly the amount of volume that you would have expected for the fact that this was allegedly going to be such a bullish event. And that's exactly, I say that in air quotes, kind of, we're not trolling here, but we're just reminding everyone that what's exoteric, like the news, is a distraction. It's to get everyone to fall for things way too late. You should not be waiting till things get exciting to get involved. You should be involved in it when it's boring and there's blood in the streets. And if you could do that and then sell whenever it gets exciting, you're probably on the right side of the play. That's exactly how it went for the Wolfpack with this whole chance to de-risk at these technical targets of 47 to 49K Bitcoin. Again, this wasn't opinion. It was just TA that was compiled and refined over podcast for over a half a year. And what was our, inserting our extra skills would be with the decoding. And that was what got us to really be confident in taking action on that move up. So just bringing up that last podcast because we want to recap it and how we covered every single year trading in Bitcoin's history to be thorough. This way, our opinion was completely removed and it was just whatever was the truth in the charts, undeniable. So, as I said moments ago, we had a couple iterations where Bitcoin did not top out on January 8th, and then we kind of just had this really low volume, small moves to the upside throughout all of January, and that is not the case right now, especially what we've seen with this deeper correction on January 12th. Then we had a couple of years of examples where Bitcoin topped out in early February, and that was somewhere before the second week, or let's just call it mid-February. But two of those times that Bitcoin went up into February, and I want you to take note of this, those two times that it happened, I should probably pull up one of these charts so I could show you these examples. So it's really amazing how Bitcoin did this. I'm going to turn off everything and just have the candles, and we're going to show you the two iterations. So one of which was in 2023, where Bitcoin moved up into February and then it has a deep correction into the month of March. And then the next would be in this moment here, 2020, moving into this deep correction into the month of March. Now, what I want to say is those two times that Bitcoin went up into February, it followed by a black swan event in the month of March. So we had this example over here, Bitcoin effectively topping out by February 16th. So take a note of that, February 16th, followed by a correction into March 10th, where there were several retail banking failures all around that week. Then in 2020, we had Bitcoin top out on February 13th, just a couple of days off, and then it followed by that March 11th C19 crash. You could see we bottomed on March 13th. We were effectively trading to the downside March 11th, 12th, 13th. So there's a very similar pattern in where we topped out and the effect that it had on the market. So I'm just bringing this up because I want to keep that in mind. Now in 2022, we did something similar to what the stock market does during the year of the dragon, which we are moving into now. And of course, 2022 is not the year of the dragon and the Chinese zodiac, but it had a similar structure in the chart. And that structure is topping out in late March. Now, I showed in last week's Red Pill podcast how the stock market tends to top out in late March or early April, kind of that March-April timeframe during the year of the dragon. So if you remember, we had several podcasts where we went through every year of the dragon going back to about 1928, and there was a clear pattern topping out by late March into mid-April every single time. And then we did not recover pretty much until the fall time. One other pattern I pointed out in the last Red Pill was how in the iterations where Bitcoin topped out after the month of January, which was just a handful of examples, we watched Bitcoin top out on the new moon before eclipse season. So we have eclipse season starting on March 25th over here. We could see our lunar eclipse as well as this solar eclipse on April 8th. And what does the new moon before eclipse season start land on? Well, it lands on March 10th. And I just brought that up recently, how we had right around that March 10th, 11th time frame, we had 2 black swan events. And what's the deal with March 10th? And why did the WHO declare the pandemic on March 11th of 2020? And why did Bill Gates step down from his position as CEO of Microsoft a couple days later on March 13th, 2020, which also was a Friday the 13th? Well, it's because it's right around the transition into the Northern Hemisphere's actual New Year. Okay? So it's as the sun moves into Pisces. Take note of this. And this is us following the actual sky, not utilizing tropical astrology. So consider these end of the year rituals for the elite when you're getting these mid-March, before March 15th rituals. So again, consider these end of the year rituals for the elite, and they've happened many, many times. We had in 2000, right around March 10th, the dot-com bubble topped out. And then we moved into, essentially we were in a Shemitah year that year. That's why I've been saying that when we look at everything across the board, if we're not in a Shemitah year, we can kind of sigh of relief. Unless we're positioned at the right time of a Shemitah year, then we know we're going into all-time highs soon. But the point being here is we looked at this chart in a couple podcasts ago. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll be able to see some of the years. And you have that big red candle on 2008. You have the going down on the year 2000, so right here and right here. And then you have here in the 1960 example where we're essentially flat. Those were all Shemitah years. Now we're not in one now. Our Shemitah ritual this time around was the C19 market. That was a big crash, V-shaped recovery, market went into all-time highs. It's just a ritual. So consider these March moments, just end of the year rituals for the elite. That's their true new year in the Northern Hemisphere. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have one this year, but I'm still keeping an eye on April 15th. Keeping April 15th on my radar as a big event for the world stage that everyone will hear about. Similar to this bombing in Israel at the end of the Jubilee, or like what happened on April 15th in the past. We had the Notre Dame fire, we had the Boston Marathon bombing, we had the sinking of the Titanic, assassination of Abraham Lincoln, day during C19 with the most cases. I could go on and on. And I've revealed this a long time ago. You know, a lot of people were asking me over here, why does my X profile have this picture? It's from the movie Interstellar. So go check out Interstellar. In the beginning of that movie, this group of people are getting interviewed about what's going on in the future world. And this fine gentleman says in April, I believe I'm right, 15th of April, I think. And he's talking about a event that happens that sets them into this kind of like dust world, you know, like a world that's almost impossible to breathe in. Okay. And that's really interesting, right? Because with the C19 ritual, everyone wore masks and everyone kind of got positioned into that world where they normalized mask wearing. I made a kind of a joke a while back, and it's not a funny joke, but it's just kind of a me going, I wouldn't be surprised if joke. And it was that they're just prepping people for a world where it'll be tough to actually breathe the air. And, you know, I don't see that coming anytime soon, but it was something that this movie Interstellar reminded me of. And when I watched this the last time and I saw this April 15th thing, I was like, wow, dude, they're not hiding anything from us. They're telling us exactly how it is. Also, let's check in when Interstellar was released, just so we could get a year to put to it. Okay, so 2014. Right on. Let me see when Okay, released October 26th. It'd be super interesting to see where we were at around that time. I do believe that was the year before Shemitah, too. No. It was the Shemitah. It was literally released like at the start of a Shemitah in 2024 because remember, Rosh Hashanah would be September. That's amazing, man, when you know this code. That's amazing. And then one of the most specific dates they say during this entire movie, which is super long movie, is the date of April 15th. You can't make this up. I probably should do a whole decode about this, but anyways, let's move on. I hope you guys are enjoying these little tangents of wisdom. Getting back to this April 15th thing, this is around the time where the sun moves into Aries in sidereal. So you can see that right there. If you remember with the Titanic ritual, it started on the 14th, moving into the 15th of April. So it's right around the time the sun is moving into Aries. Aries ruled by Mars, the god of war. This is why they use this as a ritual date, okay? It's also around the time of the true spring equinox. Again, following the sky, not following what they tell you in text on a computer screen. So if we take from April 15th this year, tied to the day that this Bitcoin ETF was approved on January 10th, we're going to get a very important connection, which is 96 days. If you've been following my work for some length of time, at least 6 months or more, you've heard us bring up this 9669 code quite a bit. It's very important for our analysis because Bitcoin topped out in this cycle at $69,000. And Bitcoin created by Satoshi is Saturn, and Saturn gives us 69 in Gematria. Remember this 21 code we have in Chaldean and full reduction for Saturn, who is Satoshi. 21 million Bitcoin in supply. We have Satoshi Nakamoto giving us this 181. It's the 42nd prime. 42 is 2 21s. So you're going to see a lot of this code coming up. And if you're brand new here, I know this could be a little overwhelming, but if you're in our Discord, just ask questions, ask curiously, and the members will chime in with their gnosis. Don't feel worried about asking a stupid question. There's no such thing. Just ask. There's a lot to learn in this code, right? And speaking of which, I am almost completed with my decoding mastermind course. I'm getting close to releasing that very soon. So I'm going to be sharing more information with you guys in the coming weeks. I'm aiming for February. It's been a wild ride, but I am packing it with as much value as possible. I think we're on like 450 slides in the presentation so far, so it's probably going to be more overall content, or art is what I like to call it, more overall art than pretty much all my courses that I made. So I'm really excited. It's going to be the most value I could possibly share. So getting back to this whole connection here. I feel this is really important. The fact that January 10th, the day the ETF launched, ties to this April 15th ritual date that I've been preparing for. And April 5th is the 96th day of the year, and that's Satoshi's birthday. So keep this in mind. This is how we identify the code within the code. All right. Now look at what this reveals to us. It's a very powerful number. This 86, but I'll get to that in a moment. January 11th. Okay, January 11th, the 111 date was the day that Bitcoin hit 49K across a lot of exchanges on this spike up right there. So it hit 49K on a lot of exchanges. Barely kissed it, okay? Now, April 5th, this is the day when the mythology of Satoshi will be turning 49 years old, and Bitcoin just hit 49K recently, a couple days ago, on the 111 date. And what's so wild about all of this is that if you take from January 11th, the day that Bitcoin flashed up to 49K before that rejection, and tie it to Satoshi's 49th birthday, which is right over here, it's going to be 86 days. And we see this number 86 hidden in the symbol of Krypton on the Royal Society of Chemistry's periodic table. You'll see it says 86 in that symbol right there. Note, krypton is kryptos. This is where we get the word crypto from, cryptocurrency, all right? And what number element is krypton? Well, it's the 36th element. And remember, with this Phoenix decode I showed you, it's been 36 years since this Phoenix coin edition was released. And we had all of this 36s that I was sharing with you. The fact that the day that this magazine released was a 36 date numerology. It's been 36 years on January 9th. January 8th, the day before, was the highest daily close we had for Bitcoin. This was part of my de-risking strategy. And on January 9th, we had tons of volatility. We had a literal ritual isolated to crypto, which was the hacking of the SEC's X account. Very weird for that event to happen, right? Out of all the people on earth to get hacked, it would be a government agency that's supposed to protect investors. Think about this, guys. It's an inside job. So, finalizing this whole thought, 36 on the date numerology, we had 36 years to the day. We have Phoenix equaling 36 in Chaldean Gematria. We also have Bitcoin equaling 36 in full reduction. And we also have Ethereum giving you 36 in Chaldean. This is perfect because these are the top two biggest by market cap cryptos. And one is giving you one type of energy and the other is giving you the other type of energy. Remember, Ethereum is ether, which is from mythology. Ether, it's the air that the gods breathe. It's prana. It's divine prana. It's the brightest light in the sky. So this is important to realize that the market is running off of astrology, gematria, and numerology, but from these more esoteric, mythological, archetypal stories, all right? It's not just the basic looking at a chart in astrology type of thing. You need to know the mythology that actually gives the storyline behind these mythologies, right? You have to know about what is the story tied to them. Anyways, I don't want to get too complicated right now, but we see all these 36 connections. Let me do one quick rundown of it all. So we had this Phoenix coin decode. I shared it with you in advance, January 4th, about 5 days before the event happened, 4 days before I decided to de-risk, but I gave everyone my de-risking target moons ago. And then we have this 36 connection now being revealed to us through this decode I'm sharing with you today. Bitcoin hits 49K on this day of 111, tying it to Satoshi's 49th birthday. It gives us 86 days apart. We know that this 86 is in the symbol of Krypton, and Krypton happens to be the 36th element, which is perfectly tied to this economist decode. You can't make this up. This is the code at work. It's a beautiful thing to see. And again, we use this economist decode and all of the TA we've been working on over the past half a year in order to determine confidently de-risking before this date of January 9th. No matter what happens, it doesn't matter what we conspire will happen. We need to take action beforehand all the time. Regardless of the Bitcoin ETF stuff, we still decided on this adding up to make the most sense. And this could turn out to be one of the most accurate decodes and analysis I've ever shared publicly, not only to the dates that we revealed, but the exact price targets too. Probably the only more epic decode would be before the run-up in July for XRP, and the timing and price projections for that were pretty unbelievable looking back on it now. So speaking of XRP, let's jump into the XRP chart to discuss a couple things. Due to the way that last week's podcast went, I feel we need to talk more about XRP today. Had a lot of questions come up, a lot of things being thrown around that maybe aren't necessarily truths. One of which was some people believing that based on my prior podcast that I was bearish on XRP and that I was selling it. And first and foremost, you guys got to remember that I update the community whenever I sell, as well as whenever I buy. And I have not sold a single XRP since this day right here. This is the only day I got to sell it, was July 13th. It swiped up through all of my limit orders in a single 1 hour candle. Okay, that was the last time I sold XRP. Why would I sell my XRP while the market's down? This is a time to buy a project, not a time to sell when we're looking at this particular coin. This is what I teach you guys. So we had the opportunity to de-risk Bitcoin. We had the opportunity to de-risk Ethereum because they were getting overheated, right? But XRP is in a different position, right? We actually had this type of move that we just recently had for Ethereum and Bitcoin. We had this in a single day for XRP back in July. And then many just started following along my art since then. So it might be a little confusing, and I know we have to tell the same stories over and over again. And for you, those of you that have been here for a long time and you're hearing the same story more than once, I apologize for that. Just remember that I'm speaking to everyone with this art, not just you. So big misconception number one, that I was selling XRP. That's not true at all. I already told you when I was sharing my sell orders back in July. Right now I'm focused on accumulation. I have actually bought XRP 5 times since I de-risked, and putting emphasis lately on this 56 to 57 cent area, and we haven't gotten the best price, but I'm not really too concerned about that because I've already been accumulating XRP now for years. I've been putting in heavy accumulations actually since March. So my average position in this is in profit regardless. I'm being very transparent about every move I do. I'm not bearish on XRP. It's my second biggest holding. I don't know why I would continue to accumulate something I'm bearish on. But anyways, I've been very vocal about all this. You can go in the Discord, see the what I'm buying and selling tab, and you could see for yourself since we've restarted that text channel after the bear market. Now we're here. We have this lull phase for XRP. A lot of people want things to happen yesterday, and this impatience is something a lot of people need to work through. I know that's not what you want to hear, but that's just the way this market is. So today we're going to really be removing the emotion from this. I'm dedicating this whole section to XRP and some analysis and some of my thoughts for what's likely to be the next move and why. But before we get into that, deep breath out, gotta remove the emotions 100% from this analysis. This is the clear pill, okay? So we're here looking at this chart in XRP. Yeah, we have a couple trend lines, but it's a very clean chart. We have 2 big patterns. One pattern is going all the way back, starting on a resistance from September 2021. That was the start of the Shemitah. And then we have all the way here at the bottom of the summertime of 2022, holding as a very solid support line thus far. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm just going to take a quick sip of tea. Got some hibiscus tea with me today, and then we will resume. 1 second. All right. So I want to review 2 times where XRP actually took off during the months of March and April. And it had everything to do with this time frame of 2017, right here, massive straight line breakout. And then again in 2021, happened right here. Those 2 times were very bullish for XRP, and this time especially was interesting because the SEC case started here. The SEC case started in December. Why did we go up 1,000% after that in the beginning of the case? And now we're down more than we were up here when after we've had some wins for this Ripple versus SEC. We've had 3 big victories within the overall case since then, and we're still down right now. That's really interesting, right? That's one thing to mention of why the exoteric stuff doesn't matter. It's not really the case that's as important as the astrology. So this time frame here of us moving up was very interesting, and what triggered it was the same thing that triggered this. It was Bitcoin was breaking out into price discovery. So if people want to know when the next XRP all-time high is, meaning breaking this 2018 high of $3, it's likely, not 100%, but it's likely that happens after Bitcoin breaks 70K. I know we have this SEC case thing going on, and I know people think that after the SEC case is over and it's a full-blown win for Ripple, that it's somehow just going to send XRP to the glory, but that's not how this works, man. We've watched it happen time and time again, and we also watched other coins that aren't even affected by the SEC case get affected by XRP's price action, and the proof of that is Stellar Lumens. Stellar Lumens had a higher all-time high back in 2018 than it did back in April, May of 2021. Why is that? Why is XLM suffering? Well, because these coins are all matching each other's energy in some way, shape, or form, just like the so-called planets do, or the luminaries. All right? It's the relationship it all has to the sun and the moon. Crypto and markets work the same way. That's why you're here. That's why you've decided to join this journey here at WatersAbove and join our community, because you're open-minded to this stuff. So be aware that we do need Bitcoin to break into price discovery and then what we would technically call an alt season. We haven't really seen XRP doing this isolated moon day, thing, except a lower high. So I'll say that again. When we see XRP doing some isolated jump to the upside, it's never been all-time highs. It's always been just a sporadic move up and then a Bart Simpson head. Just up, down, up, down, up, down, over and over and over again. You could see even going back in the day, this was no different. We had these Bart heads over and over. Now, don't get discouraged by this. It's an opportunity to learn how to trade it. That's why I've called this coin since the first day I started my channel a trader's coin, even though people hated me for saying that. Well, if anyone's been following for that long, I've been trading this coin the whole time, and it's been incredible for me. No complaints, because I don't have this hodl forever mindset. I know when it's overheated and when it's time to de-risk, rinse, repeat. I know when it's really oversold and when it's a good time to consider purchasing. So that's why I've been saying lately, for the past 3 to 4 months, anything under 60 cent XRP is a gift. I don't care if it goes to 43 or 44, it doesn't concern me. In the long term, that's just opportunity to dollar cost average. So if you get in a little at 55, a little at 45, a little bit at 59, it's just all going to equal out at the end of the day. But when you're looking at price targets potentially to $10, $15, $20, you're not going to be concerned with the difference between 40 to 50 cents, trust me. So this is just a very arduous long-term accumulation range that XRP is still in. And the next time it breaks all-time highs, it will have a very explosive move to the upside. But I personally don't buy it that this case ending is going to cause that. Okay? So I just want to review these 2 times where we made this move in March, right at this pivot point here, and then also right over here. Consider these times in 2017 and 2021. Now, this upcoming April 2024, we have the grand trial between Ripple and the SEC scheduled for April 23rd, 2024. Now, this is all information that I've gotten from the internet. I believe it's the most up-to-date information. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that this is accurate stuff. So, this grand trial between Ripple and the SEC scheduled for April 23rd. Then on March 13th, about a month or so before, the SEC needs to make their next move in this chess game, and Ripple must file its opposition by April 12th, 2024. But what's classic about all of this is specifically the day of the grand trial, which if we look at where the moons are on that day, it's on the full moon of April. Why this is so important is it's the first full moon after eclipse season. So we have all this energy moving in because of the eclipse, then the release, and then we have this full moon. This is amazing setup that you guys got to be aware, even with stuff like options expiry, the day of FOMC meetings, all of that, these elites plan everything around these moons. It's not coincidence. So Now, with that in mind, I do believe this whole case wrapping up will be the exoteric narrative they will leverage on for volatility in the XRP price. And as mentioned many times, I feel an isolated event for XRP is likely for the months of March and April this year. So you could go back to maybe the second or third, I believe it's probably the third podcast that I did with the Bearable Bull. It was before we even started talking about the fractal that was playing out on XRP, moving into $1.20, pretty much $1.20, $1.30 highest. But in that fractal analysis, before I shared that fractal analysis with him, we talked about the month of March, April of 2024. Why? Because it had to do with the eclipses. And I was sharing that I believe we will probably have an isolated event for XRP then because of this stuff that I'm showing you right now. I'm just recapping some of this information and sharing some of my own opinions and thoughts as we go through this, because we have this exoteric event of this Ripple grand trial with the SEC, against the SEC. So my intuition here, it says that it's going to be like this recent Bitcoin ETF situation, where the market maker pushes this market up based on news related to the Ripple SEC case into the month of March, and then in April there will be a big flood of liquidity coming in and most likely topping out before the actual day of the case being concluded, or just followed by some sort of sell-off after, just like what happened with these Bitcoin ETFs launching. So this sell-off with Bitcoin right now will most likely push down most of the crypto market. I think Bitcoin's not doing so good. Okay, this is very important. I gotta stop myself for a second and just update you all on what we're seeing here really quickly. Okay. So we had our weekly close come in for the crypto market. I had to start this podcast a little bit earlier because I was having internet issues. I'm so glad everything's working smoothly now, but we just had the weekly close and we got a wolf cross to the downside on Bitcoin on the 12-hour chart. That's a sign of some problems. And then this major trend line that's been in place since the breakout after the last eclipse, we're now starting to close some critical candles below here. So our lowest 12-hour close as we speak is at 41,000, and I believe CME will be opening up soon if it's not already open. Yes, it is. So there should be a gap. Okay, good. This is fine. I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to get back to the XRP stuff, and then we're going to come back to this really important weekly close we just had for the Bitcoin market. Okay, so as I was saying moments ago, I see speculation regarding this SEC case bringing attention to XRP by late February. So keep note of that. I see attention coming to XRP again by mid to late February, about this time next month. So somewhere in the middle of February. And this is what the market maker will focus on. It will make this project sexy for traders, and then retail will likely FOMO in after the run up, and it will go like it goes every single time. I think it will be very similar to this move over here that we had with June, July 2023, where we see that we traded down and then we just pivoted out of nowhere, got bullish very, very quick. This is a classic thing that altcoins do, by the way. You could see it over and over, how we trended down and then just boom, moved up. Here we had this up shakeout to the downside, bear trap, which led to recovery. Here trading down, pivot up. Like, it's just a pivot point that we got to watch out for. And I think my February full moon analysis that I've shared, that is the pivot point if I had to dial it all in. But needless to say, I want to share with you a pattern that I've located on XRP that could be useful. I'm not going to write this all out. I'm just going to speak it out to you, and then we'll go through the pattern. Just one second. I need to drink some water. Okay. I'm hanging in there with my voice today. So we have 2014 I'm talking about the month of February now for all of these years. February 2014 down 33%. 2015, February down 9%. February 2016 up 23%. 2017 down 12%. 2018 down 21%. 2019 up 2%, pretty flat. 2020 down 4%. 2021 down 17%. 2022 up 26%, and then 2023 down 7%. So I'll just tell you what the pattern is. There's no need to get complicated. It's that we have 2 red Februaries followed by a green February. So since 2022 was green, this would mean that it's likely to have 2 red Februaries in a row, which would make this year, 2024, likely to be red for XRP, closing the month of February. Keep this in mind. Now, 7 out of 10 years for XRP, in the month of February, it closes red. That's 70% of the time. And the average monthly close percentage is about 14% down. Note, that's an average of 14% off of the closure of the month prior. So essentially, we're going to need to wait till the 1st of February to be able to determine where we would be pulling that average 14% move to the downside. But I want you to be aware that this is a very elusive coin. And I'm going to show an example in a moment. One moment. All right. So now, of course, this pattern that we just talked about could be a coincidence, but based on what we're seeing with the overall Bitcoin analysis of us topping by January 8th, which we've already had, and generally being bearish during the rest of the month of January and all of February with solid buying opportunities in February, specifically around the February full moon, which is February 24th. This also aligns with the average monthly performance for XRP as well, with an overall bearish February. And this is a very elusive project. I want to show you in 2022 why. So I'm going to go to 2022 February and look at this type of move that we got. We're looking at February 3rd, 2022. We went up 55% in just 6 days and then corrected 33% in 15 days and then got bought back up into the monthly close. So we closed off the month over 25% up, but it was a roller coaster ride. And I'm personally prepared for that kind of price action in crypto nowadays too. With all this attention on crypto now since the Bitcoin ETFs have launched. And also there's going to be a lot of extra attention now that there's been a big dramatic sell-off, because it's making people like, what's going on? You know, they're like, I thought this was supposed to be a good thing, and it's seemingly not going that well, but we were prepared for that here. So overall, it's likely that the dates of the case, this SEC case in March and April, has been playing a role in why XRP has been so suppressed lately, whilst Bitcoin and Ethereum are trading into the macro golden pocket. XRP is about 60 to 70% away from that level comparatively. So I would like to imagine that if we were to consider that, if we were to actually just close off the month of February where we're at now and pull about 60% move to the upside, that's bringing us into about 93 cents to almost $1. Literally based off of what we've been experiencing. People might think, well, that might be tough for XRP to do out of nowhere. No, it's not. Look at this. I mean, you could pretty much pull any example. Look right here. 80% up in 2 weeks. How did that happen? Go over here. Wick lows. 65% in 2 weeks. How did that happen? Right here, we had a 100% day. This is a 72% on a daily close. So you know XRP could come out of nowhere with a 60 to 70% move. It's very normal, okay? So just keep that in mind with how we're suppressed right now. I'm going to get back to the XRP TA in a moment. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do XRP TA now. I'd rather just keep it going in flow than break it up. But we did have a very important close just now. So we're here on the daily. It's a little bit noisy. Let me turn off these drawings. We have gravitated to the 200s. We have the 200 simple, 200 exponential squeezing together. We still have a wolf cross with downside implied, so that's not looking too good. Let's look at what the two-day 200s have been very useful since we've made this move up back in May, back in March, April. Just like I said, we do have this nice move in March and April, a lot of months, believe it or not. Here we had XRP move up literally 60% during the month of March. Could very well be the case this time as well. But we're holding these 200s, so that's one thing to say. I would look to the 2-day 200 simple on big moves to the downside. This gives you something to keep an eye on, somewhere around 51, 52 cents, which based off of where we're at today would be an almost 10% move. Not that crazy. Let me look at where the weekly is. We just closed another weekly. Okay, and we're getting supported by this 200 simple on the weekly just after this recent pullback. And we're about to have this 55 simple cross above the 200 simple. That's a very good cross to get regarding the XRP chart. A lot of people would call that a... oh my God, I stopped using the terms that all the other people use. I'm living in La La Land now. Some people would call that a golden cross. God, I don't care anymore about anything. See, family, when you just do your own thing for long enough, you become like the guy living in the forest. I'm literally Patrick Starr. I just do my own TA now. Usually when you get this cross to the downside, people would call it a death cross. I actually think that's the best time to buy. I don't know why that terminology has become such a buzzword, this golden cross and death cross thing. I don't give any prana to that, really. But it does seem to be timed perfectly to where we get the pivot moment. So you could see right here when we had that cross, that was pretty much as low as XRP got. Now we're about to get that cross again in the other direction. I would not be surprised if it marks the low on this particular pattern that we've been holding, which actually has been a perpetual higher lows, higher highs pattern for 570 days. So if we were to pivot off of this June low, which is the lowest we got, technically, we've just been making higher lows and higher highs. It's very nice. It's boring, but it is a truth. So getting back to this, it would be necessary for us to get back above this 8 simple moving average for us to get bullish again. That's typically how this moves, but can't put too much on that for the month of February as we just discussed. We're bull flagging out with a very ugly flag, but could very well be the play. And if that was the case, I mean, we would be, one thing to say, besides this flash crash that we had on January 3rd, I shouldn't call it flash crash, that's silly, but you can see the type of volatility we're getting here, a 20% move in a single day. I do think that this 50 cent area has been filled out enough. You can see it here being a prior resistance, here being a prior resistance, here and here. And we're looking like we're flipping it because we've had, going on 2 weeks now, breaking below the 60 cent level, but back testing prior resistance. I mean, shit, look at that. Even back here too. If I held my cursor right here on where these wick lows have come in and you look across my screen, look at how powerful that is. We've just been back testing all these prior resistance rejections that have been going on since September of 2022. That's over a year and a half. Could be very bullish. I mean, overall, I'm still incredibly bullish for XRP. Again, to remind everyone. I'm going to leave it at that. I think that we have enough kind of data to go off of, but we need to see how this monthly close comes in so we can get some idea of what to measure off of for this red month of February that's likely to be in the cards. And if it was to happen, that this is still within the month of February, we could have an impulse to the upside. as I showed you in the example of 2022. And there's probably going to be other examples, because when you're looking at a crypto monthly close, there's so much volatility that happens between point A and point B. Let's look at the weekly. I want to see if I could get anything on these more macro time frames. Yeah, it's hard. We don't have much data. You got a very powerful wolf cross though. So that's good. Okay, so you can see this here. You see where this 8 crossed above the 55 was the moment this went parabolic. Over here, you see the same. When this 8 crossed above the 55, we topped, but we also stayed bullish until the moment that the cross was below. We've had this cross because of all of this energy that's been going on since the first case update and then the second case update with Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson. And now we have another event coming in March. Keep an eye on this 55 simple. I think that's the level. I think it's that 51 cents. And you know why? I mean, it's because XRP has that 15 in Chaldean and the 51 in reverse. And we've talked about that many times. It's a powerful number for XRP. Yeah, if we're going to come down, 51 cents would be a solid area. But the way we're bouncing right now is convincing too. So looking fine. I think this is really looking fine. And the impulse to the upside, I'm still looking at that March, April timeframe if this is going to go how we've seen in the past. Okay, let's move over to Bitcoin. Oof. All right, that's big. So we had Bitcoin close a daily below the 55 simple. Huge. Wow. I was not anticipating that to happen that soon, but that's beautiful. Because as I shared, I'm looking for 30K, 31, 32K would be ideal. If we can get a swipe below to 28, even better. That's where I got all my orders set. So I usually like to buy and sell in 5 increments, but when I have a project like Bitcoin, I mean, it doesn't really change much between buying at or selling at 47 or 48 or 49. Like, it's so minimal, the percentage moves. So yeah, that's why I've been making kind of my orders less on Bitcoin lately. I did a big buy at 26.5 and then a big sell at 47. And I'm going to be going back to my old ways on this next accumulation because the year just started. So I'm staggering in the 28, 29, 30, 31 levels. And we're seeing the 200s are catching up to those higher levels. That's important to keep in mind. But where we're at on some of these deeper pullbacks after an automatic rally can definitely get below the daily 200s like we saw in this example back in 2019. Here in this example of 2016, we traded right into wicking below this 200 simple. And then this example here, we didn't quite get close to it. Well, yeah, we got pretty close. I would say that's close, but this is too new on the data. Yeah, within 5%, that's super close. Yeah, so, I mean, interacting with the 200s at this time would be normal. And by the way, just to be honest, it's very risky to be putting in sub 30K Bitcoin orders. Like, it's not the most bearish project on earth right now. We just have these fucking ETFs approved. So by me going for that, it's really the deeper levels. I mean, that would be a full 40% correction, which we have seen in every prior iteration of an automatic rally. So I'm just going with the data as I've went with the data to de-risk on January 8th. I would not sleep on the data. So that's why I just have some orders set to the 28 and 29 level just in case. Let's look at the weekly close. How did that go for Bitcoin? Ooh, was that below the 8? I think it was. So we have 41.7 and we closed 41.7. Holy shit. Yeah, we closed perfectly on the support of the 8. So that's a sign of danger for sure. And then we would look for where the 21 is. 21 is sitting at 37. So if we started to close below the 21 weekly, I do think a swipe down into at least 34 is in the cards. And that 34 is now getting up there. It's at 34K. The 34 EMA is at 34K. Let's look at, was that a bi-weekly close too? Oh yeah, that looks like a top structure. Okay, so I'm pretty confident in this, that this was a top structure. You see this bi-weekly candle of closure? It was our highest price and we closed red after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a brilliant fucking call. Holy shit. Now that I'm looking at the technicals on this post effect, that's pretty fucking crazy. And we have the 55 sitting at around 29K. So yeah, I do think that my 28K buy orders are a little too low. I'll be very honest about that. We're talking like a swipe that could be filled in a 1 hour candle if we were lucky. And we would need something dramatic to make that happen. The weekly is looking great. We've had this 55 cross above the 200s. 5-day, it's looking fantastic. Lots of supports coming in right around 30. So if this does pull back deeper, I'm pretty confident we're not going to just fall through the bottom. All right, yep, we're looking good. But this was a sign of danger. We've had multiple signs of danger, though, that I told you guys about. And this wolf cross of the 8 below the 55 is definitely one. That's the start of some problems. And the daily having a wolf cross, which is something I gave you in the update, is definitely a sign of weakness. Let's look at that CME chart really quickly. Okay, we got a gap and we closed below 34 EMA, so that's big. Let me look at, I'm going to make this live gap drawing. 1 second. Close this all out. Oops. 1 second, guys. All right. So we have our gap levels. We are now testing this 236 to the downside. Remember, we had this fib pull from the December 8th high to this December 11th. And this showed us where our 1618 would be. We effectively flashed through the 1618 on the day of the fake tweet that came from the hacked SEC account. And then we had a full-blown swipe up on the 11th, followed by a very noticeable correction. And now we've gapped down. I do feel it would make more sense to leave this gap. So I'm going to share my thoughts because we moved out of the new moon. We're heading towards the full moon. I think we're going to fill this downside gap probably before we fill this one, but I want to be very cautious right now because we have the stock market opening tomorrow, okay? And we have the FOMC meeting on the 29th, or sorry, take that back, on the 31st. It's the last day of the month. That'll be interesting. So I don't give a shit what gap gets filled first, but I'm just using my intuition that it would make more sense for us to be more bearish right now because of all those setups that we talked about, but it's been pretty damn bearish. Like we've already had, what, a 15% pullback for Bitcoin from wick to tail. Yeah, it's been a total 15%. So as I've said, oh my God, yeah, I need to say something real quick. So remember I talked about around the time I released my red pill. Let me show you guys. Which one was it? Oh, this one, yeah. So it was the January 7th red pill last week. I said that I'm seeing 40 to 70% corrections across the board coming soon for the altcoin market. And you know how many people read this and they think that I'm saying that there was going to be 40 or 70% candles? Like, unbelievable the way people are. You know, it's like the reading comprehension skills are at an all-time low over there on X.com. But you know how many examples we could pull up of projects that have already made 30% corrections? I mean, look at IOTA is a great example. From top to lows that we've had so far, 41%. Let's look at HBAR. I bet you it's at least 30. There you go, 31% wick to tail. We could come up with a million examples, man. It's like a polka dot. 32% wick to tail. Let's go to Solana. %, and Solana is continuing to get rejected on this major trend line, which tells me that, yeah, it's probably going to break soon. Anyways, 30% out of the potential next 10% into the next 70%, or total 70% from the microcycle top to the bottom is still in play. And it could very well be fulfilled for everything, given a couple of, outliers, probably by May. we're just getting started on a sell-off, just like it took time for us to make this move to the upside. Like, look at this move from October all the way to where we are now. It took 90 days. That's 3 months. So we could easily, over the next 90 days, correct all the way down. And where would that bring us? That would bring us right around eclipse season and the Bitcoin halving. It's just really weird. I don't understand why people aren't so savvy at reading anymore. Anyways, so believe we're good to wrap this one up on Bitcoin. I've already shared enough data on this for you guys to be prepared. We got the XRP play in mind, downside targets. We know that we're not selling right now. Got to wait on that. Okay, so ETH has started to, it's giving us the Saturn logo. ETH is starting to look a little bit like its moment of shine is over with. So many people, they wanted to assume that we're going to have this huge rotation into altcoins. And I told them, that's okay if that happens, but you want to be cautious with that belief. That's a belief that we have a rotation right now. I don't believe we're going to have a true alt season until we see a Bitcoin all-time high. That's just my stance on the matter, and that's how it's always been. So unless there's some weird difference and change, I mean, it's just the way the market is. So I don't think that this move up that we saw to 2,700 on ETH was a rotation. Come on now. Like, it was a momentary move of some liquidity over to ETH, but in general, ETH is now down still 8% from top. All of that liquidity that was leaving Bitcoin should have been going into ETH this whole time, and if it was a real rotation, this thing would be up at $3,000 already. Given the amount of market cap that has left Bitcoin, that's not been the case. So yeah, we get a couple days of extra move up for Ethereum. It moved up one day later. But it's not a rotation, man. People got to calm down about this whole idea of an alt season right now. I think it's a very dangerous way of perceiving the market, because it's taking something that happens at an isolated time and it's applying it to every time. That's just not, it's not how this works. It would be like, imagine you had winter come early and you got some snow happening in, I don't know, September. And then you were like, every September it snows. When the average month that it starts snowing is January. I think that repeatability in the patterning of nature is a teacher. But when we have an isolated situation, sure, it throws a wrench in some of the data. But when you zoom out and you collect all the data, which you very well can, all of you can open up these charts yourself and take notes, well, then you'll see, oh, okay, that's how it actually is. It's not just this make-believe theory that some influencer on YouTube told me. That's why in my last probably 5 podcasts, I've done my due diligence to just tell you this information and have you kind of get curious about it, and if I find a pattern, I still look for the loop, like for what's the problem, what is it called? The chink in the chain, or I forgot the saying, but that was the whole purpose of going into Bitcoin year by year, as we did, to find where's our investment thesis wrong. That's super helpful to do, because then you don't start getting biased to become overly bullish or overly bearish. Remember, we're wolves here. Either of those bulls or bears, they're all getting finessed. They believe in the exoteric solely. Here we're believing in nothing except ourselves, and we're resonating with this exoteric to reveal code through their esoteric skill set that we have. It's really important to see it for what it is, because then you could remove the emotions out of this completely, and then you could actually be effective at investing in this market. So there's been no rotation into ETH. That's silly. We've had a couple days of moving up, sure, but for the most part, the structure that we're seeing is pretty similar. This kind of H pattern that we've had. I do believe there'll probably be a little short-term buyback, because now we have some institutional players coming in with CME, but that's just very short-term stuff. In general, we should continue to the downside. And what I would be looking at for ETH, now that it's closed a daily below the macro 618 twice, we could maybe buy back up to that level, get rejected, and then we'd be making our way down to the 0.5 fib. And I would keep this level in mind around 2,180 and this level of 2,120. So write both of those levels down. And if we were to start breaking into that area, I would suspect it's gonna start getting much more bearish after that. But this is a big block of trading range that we developed over the month prior that we broke out of momentarily. We're still holding the breakout, which is good. But once it starts coming back into this 2200 area and lower, I do think that could set off some stop losses. That would all probably be completed by February, given the timing of everything. And yeah, if we were to top out effectively at 2,700, moving into this level here of the 382 fib, that would be about a 40% correction. So I think that's starting to be seemingly more extreme, but I'm keeping it in mind. And if, oh, by the way, I de-risked ETH. I had 3 orders, I believe, trigger. So I'm completely de-risked with that. I'm not worried if it goes a little higher. It doesn't really concern me because my long-term position is well in profit. But I want to accumulate more ETH. So this is the chance to de-risk a little bit, potentially to buy back in. If I'm not able to accomplish that, then it's fine because I still have my larger bag at play. Let's move over to our first project, which is going to be the graph, GRT. All right, it's been some time since we've covered that, which is great. We have we have pretty limited data on this one, but let's have fun. So we have a fib pulled from the swing high of alt season 2021. We have it down to the swing low, and we are on fib levels based on log scale. We've broken above the 382, or sorry, I'll take that back. I need to get into altcoin mode now. So we broke above the 236. We got rejected right below the 382. We had a little bit of a pullback a couple months following. And then right around that solar eclipse of October, pivoted, and now we're looking like a double top. So I don't feel too good about this. The fact that it's getting rejected at the same exact level that it did back in February. Now we're moving into February a year later and effectively getting rejected at the same exact price, around 22 cents. And below the technical level of the 382. And what I teach is you want to start closing macro candles above the 382 to confirm automatic rally. And your automatic rally would trigger you to this line that I drew, somewhere around 55 cents. And depending on where we're at in this cycle, that level would be like your first impulse level. Will it go higher? Probably yes. But I'm just telling you that would be the first impulse level. And that makes a lot of sense too, because look at this thin air between the rejection level and essentially this 0.5 fib. So from where we're at today, that would be about a 240% move, believe it or not. It looks like a small amount, but it's quite a bit actually. So in this pullback that we're probably moving into now, we could have a little bit of a support to consider here, a rising trend line support. I would not be surprised if this does break the 236, considering it's only another 15%. And let's look at how much we've moved so far. Okay, so far we have had a 33% correction, a little bit of a bounce, a rejection, and we're looking weak. A full move to this level by full moon of February would be 60% correction, and a full move to this by like May-ish after the eclipse season would be about, let's call it 60%. So this would be in alignment with pretty much everything that I've been sharing. Not looking so great on this because of this double top essence, but I do like this higher lows structure. It's just we never really got a higher high. I think if you wanted to only look at daily closes, we probably have. No, that's not fair. I wouldn't call one daily close. So really you would want to wait till the 382 to start confirming a bullish reversal. In the meantime, we're still just kind of figuring out what we want to do over here with the graph, hence the double top. Okay. So yeah, pullbacks to this range of sub 10 cents is likely, but right around 10 cents is still looking juicy. And then from there up to the impulse, that would be 450%, and up into this golden pocket area would be a potential 10x. So if this thing can make it back to $1, which it very well can, even though it doesn't have much trading above $1, then that's a 10x, obviously from 10 cents. It's an opportunity. I wouldn't put too much in this though. I would treat this like venture capital. Let's move on. It's not the worst chart. We're looking at XDC network now. How's this thing been doing? Did it wick to that level? Oh shit. When did that happen? December 17th, this cheeky bastard. All right, so we called this out a long time ago. We talked about how this is probably coming down to this trend line at least one more time, because it's been the cleanest trend line I've seen in a long time. The way that this has respected it. So you see off launch, cracked beneath it, magnetized right back up to it, rejection, right again, boom, 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 blast off. And then at the end of the bull run came right back to it. Just magic. And then had a lot of trading built around this 236. That would have really been the time to get in, because this shit's so bullish, like in the overall structure. I mean, remember we talked about in the last podcast how many projects were still trading back at the C19 levels? Well, that's not the case for XDC. This shit's up 7,000% from C19 crash. So don't hate the player, hate the game. Is that what they say? I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, this is looking great. You can't say one bad thing about this shit. This fucking looks, it's incredible. It's like it didn't even have a 95% correction. It barely got to 90, and then it just said, fuck you. I'm going straight to the golden pocket. This thing is really solid for an altcoin. I mean, this looks hectic, but you got to remember, like, it's brand new. It's trading at fractions of a penny. And then it went on to go up 27,000%. It's massive. And we're in the year of the X right now. I'm bullish on this shit. I should probably invest in it. I don't think I've invested in this yet. I don't know why So yeah, prior all-time highs, you're only getting about a 300% return. So the only real reason to get involved in this, in my opinion, right now, would be banking on a move up into a new bull run. Let's look at the prior fractal pull. Into the 1618. Like, what? Do you guys see what just happened right there? Look at how perfect that is. From this launch peak down to this whole support low. Perfect rejection at the 1618. Like, you fucking magic, dude. Look at that shit. Like, swiped through it. It's crazy. Yeah, I'm juiced up on this project right now. So it perfectly went to the 1618. It's fucking crazy. Let's look up where it's at now. That'd be 82 cents. That's a huge move for what it's already done, right? Like, for what it's already done, be 180,000% in like 5-6 years. Shit. It's like some Dogecoin shit, you know? All right. Yeah, this is looking good. I mean, it's not the, I don't like buying, okay, it's about 70% away from all time. I mean, I'm not a huge proponent of just picking up stuff. I'll wait on this. I'm going to wait till we get through the Bitcoin halving, because we could very well break below this trend line. Okay, so I'm going to share my last thoughts on this. We have seen a break below this trend line. We have seen rejections below this trend line when we broke beneath it too. So we could totally have an as above, so below moment. Let's see, August here. Okay, another August peak. So this thing really likes to be bullish at that time. Shit, and it just sends it by March. I don't have enough time to decode this particular thing right now based on price, but I would maybe buy it if it came back to the 236 and broke this. Because if it broke, it wouldn't be weird for it to come back, reject, and then have a little bit more time. I'll give you an idea. You guys can see me delete this now because we've already accomplished the whole idea. So something like this, let's just say February, come back up, the eclipse, and the eclipse has a weird bearish deal. Now this would be like a dream if this happened, but you feel me? And then new all-time highs by like Q4. That would be the play. I seen this like weird inverse head and shoulders deals a couple of times on altcoins, like enough times to feel confident that they do happen. Kind of this idea. And, you know, it's an altcoin. It's not going to be a stranger to deep corrections. This would be 70%, by the way, off the peak of August. Be coming down into about 0.25. So we should draw some horizontal lines and give ourselves horizontal levels to keep in mind, because you never just want to guess. Yeah, 0.25 is powerful. That range would be incredible opportunity. I don't know if we'll get as low as December's lows, but if this market really wants to peel over and Bitcoin can make it down into that 32K level, then just consider where this thing is at now, minus 40%. It'd be bringing you back to the 236, which is what I said earlier. That could be an opportunity to break this. Pretty much exactly how I drew it, you know, left shoulder, maybe something like that. All right, yeah, great chart. Lots to learn from studying a chart like this too. Let's move over to Harmony 1. Spend some time. Let's look at the crypto chart and see if we got more data there. It's going back to 2019. That's the same chart. Cool. All right. Okay, so since the last time I did TA on this project, we actually did break lower. You can see right there, we started to break lower. So this is really not looking good. You can see perpetual lower highs and lower lows. So we got our low, tons of lower lows, trading all throughout the summer into the fall, almost 2.5 months. And this is just getting perpetually rejected. So there's a trend line here that's powerful that I think we could keep in mind. And then if that breaks, this thing's going to fly. But this is not looking good because look, high, lower high, lower high, lower high. It's not good. Can't even get above the 236 at a time where Bitcoin's breaking into the golden pocket. So yeah, let's just a quick reminder about stuff like this. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not the most savvy when it comes to keeping up with all of these projects that I review. But Harmony 1 had its time to shine because of the NFT craze, right? That's what it was kind of tied to. I came out when there was this time that NFTs were really popping off, and I told people, no, that's not going to work forever, you know? And that wasn't I didn't get the best reception to that, to revealing that. People got really upset and angry because everyone and their mother was making some money on NFTs at the time. And even celebrities were making their own NFTs. Like fucking Lindsay Lohan made a goddamn NFT. And it was just, it's a tax scam, basically. It's fairy dust of the fairy dust of the fairy dust. It's like a mockery. It's so funny. Tim Dillon said the best thing ever. He said, NFTs make Bitcoin look legit. It's super funny to me. But, you know, in all seriousness, Harmony did really well during that time of the NFT craze. So we're looking at from January 2021, alt season happens. This thing raged. It went up 10,000% in a year, you know, killed it. Now, since to this day, it's still down 96%. And it's perpetually had lower lows ever since it broke this support over here, which was barely any time to even trade at that level. We're going on what, 600 days now of just lower lows, lower highs. So it's not the best scenario to be in. And we still have this level beneath us that we could very well break into, because you see how we traded all of this time over here, getting beneath what was the short-term SOS at the time. That's not good. We're trading now into this backup phase area of the prior cycle. So that doesn't make me feel confident on this one. And look at the chart in general. So from where it's at to where its prior all-time highs was, that's 2,000%. So is this a venture capital opportunity? Sure. I'm not trying to FUD anyone out of this or say don't buy it. I'm just telling you what it is and how to play it. Play it like a shit coin, because it always was one. There's no solid actual real investment if something is going to lose 95 to 97%. It's not really investment at that point. It was a hopium play. At the time, it felt good if you were making money, but then it gives up all of its gains essentially. 97% should not make you confident. And that's why everything that does move like that, I just consider it venture capital. I'll put maybe up to 5% in it at best. Unless I have a super strong investment thesis around it, which is up to you on the personal level to figure that out for yourself. There's nothing wrong with you doing a ton of research and something, and then now you have this confidence that it's worthy of putting big positions in. But this is the gambling casino, family. What goes up can come down right back to where you started, if not go lower. And this is one of those plays that because of the chart, I would not feel confident in. I'm not really confident on NFTs either. I think it's a cool technology. I think there's an opportunity for me to even utilize the technology at some point, but it's along the lines of the same kind of vibe for me as AI. I don't really care to use it. I'd rather make real products that I've designed myself, and I'm seeing these NFTs that look like 8-bit, what are we doing here? Why does this look worse than Super Mario graphics? Anyways, the TA on this is pretty cut and dry. Perpetual lower highs, lower lows, downtrend, hasn't broken any critical levels yet. It needs to get above this 3-cent level and close macro candles above the 382. Then that would feel really good for more continuation to the upside. And who knows, maybe I might wait this one out until we get to around the Bitcoin halving, see if it could get back to these 1 cent levels, and then I might accumulate a little bit, because there is a 2,500% play. And I've talked about that's kind of what's on my radar for investing at this time. 2,500% on my venture capital plays across the board is making me feel okay. Okay, the last one we're going to get into today is Dogecoin. Now, I will be covering this again actually soon because we're getting to the tail end of today's episode, but I am going to actually be creating a more thorough investment thesis for Dogecoin, and I plan to invest in it. And I did not invest in it at all in the last cycle. For me, it's just an opportunity based on a pattern that I discovered, and I'll share more information on it in maybe like an isolated decode for everyone, but I'll wait on that. Anyways, this seems like it's going to be a solid play for the month of February through this Bitcoin halving time frame to accumulate. And where it's at now versus the prior all-time highs, we're looking at about 700% on one of the highest altcoin market caps out there. And it has a cyclical pattern that's repeated time and time again with chart history that goes back to 2014. All right. And an undeniable performance. Today, to where it's launched 70,000% up from the C19 levels, it is up 4,000%. So, yeah, it's undeniable at this point. It's kind of silly to not have a little bit of Dogecoin. I know that sounds crazy, but if you're going to have a high market cap project that has proven itself in performance, this is the one. It's done better than XRP. It's done better than a lot of stuff. I mean, even Solana, cycle after cycle. So kind of wild to be putting this in my portfolio, but I believe it serves its purpose, and it's a more secure bet. It's a more likely profitable bet. And the 1618 sitting somewhere right below $4. So getting to accumulate something at 7 cents, 6 cents potentially with a move that could be going up 3,000 to 4,000%, it's looking pretty good to me. So I'm going to potentially get to about 3 to 4% of my portfolio in Doge. Nothing huge, but enough exposure to feel like I could make a good play on it. So the technicals are also very cut and dry here. We have perpetual lower highs, but we've been holding very strong on this horizontal support level. So this horizontal support level was gifted to us of awareness back in April 2021. And since June of 2022, we have now held it for 500 plus days. So where's that level? It's 6 cents. Anything close to 6 cents is a gift. And we see that Doge likes to get low before it pops. You could see that here, this repeating pattern. So we're below the 236 right now, which when you're making investments, that's a great area to accumulate. When you've had something that's lost 95, 97% of its value, and it's trading below the 236, that's a much better place to accumulate than waiting till we're above the 0.5 fib, for instance. So I'm going to leave it at that for now, because I will be covering this project more in depth in potentially an isolated decode that has to do with mythology, and it ties in XRP and the whole Bitcoin ETH vision of the future. And yeah, it could be a fun one. It's been a while since I've done an isolated decode just to crypto, to a specific crypto. So this could be the chance. All right, well, I'm going to leave you all here. It's been an amazing time going over all this data with everyone and watching this bigger pullback happen on Bitcoin after the exact day of de-risking. And here we are, right down at 42K, same price we were at December 11th, pretty much December 4th. Last month, excuse me. So not the reaction we expected from the Bitcoin ETFs being approved. And we all knew how that would go. So I'll keep you guys updated in any text updates as we get through this. And in the meantime, continue to share as much as you can over in our Discord. We all love to hear where your thoughts are, and make sure to vote on the next coin we cover in Red Pill Podcast 147, and I'll be catching you all very soon. Much love.